That we have in our possession the firearm that was fired by Mr. Baldwin. This is the firearm we believe discharged the bullet. We also believe that we have the spent shell casing from the bullet that was fired from the gun. The actual lead projectile that was fired has been recovered from the shoulder of Mr. Souza. The projectile was recovered by medical personnel where he was being treated and turned over to the sheriff's office as evidence. We regard this specific spent casing and recovered projectile to be the live round that was fired from the revolver by Mr. Baldwin. We have recovered what we believe to be possible additional live rounds on set.
Yeah, John, we learned a lot of information there about this weapon. There was a question about what type of projectile was used, whether it was some kind of blank round. The sheriff actually saying straight out the top that this was a live round of ammunition, a lead bullet that went through Halyna Hutchins and lodged into the shoulder of the director, injuring him. And the sheriff also doing something, John, that we don't often see, and that is getting far out in front of the medical examiner. In cases involving death, we hear a lot of times we need to wait for the autopsy, wait for the coroner's report. The sheriff describing there toward the end of that press conference this bullet shooting and killing Halyna Hutchins. He himself describing that as killing her. And so obviously key pieces of information there. There's still a lot that investigators have to do as it relates to assigning liability and culpability. That will be the purview of the district attorney here. Again, a question of liability. It could come down to the person who loaded that weapon, the person who handed it to Alec Baldwin. As she said, everything is on the table, which could include a possible liability for Alec Baldwin himself as the person who fired the trigger. This is obviously a tragedy, but it's now up to investigators to determine exactly what happened in the run-up to this tragic event, and then obviously for prosecutors to determine whether they will actually be bringing charges.
People accidentally shot on a movie set by a prop gun. We need help immediately.
This is the set. The director, Joel Souza, was injured. The director of photography, Halyna Hutchins, was killed. 2 individuals were shot on the set of Rust, according to the Santa Fe, New Mexico Sheriff's Office, when a prop firearm was discharged by Alec Baldwin. Baldwin distraught in the sheriff's parking lot after questioning. The investigation remains open and active. No charges have been filed. A prop firearm should shoot only blanks.
With a blank round, you have everything that you would normally have in a real round, but you don't have the bullet on the end of it. So that when it fires, you do get the flash, you do get the bang, you get the recoil, you get the explosion, but you don't get the bullet flying out the end of the gun. Now, that doesn't mean that blank rounds are safe.
Hutchins posted this video the day before she died, horse riding on a day off. One of the perks of shooting a Western, she wrote. Born in Ukraine, Hutchins started out as a journalist, then moved to the US to study and work in the movies. Named a rising star in 2019 by American Cinematographer magazine. She was 42.
She kind of brought that eye that she had from documentaries and nonfiction filmmaking to, again, action movies and horror movies. So they had this sort of immediacy and realism, as well as this eye for beauty that she had. And it was a really unique look.
A death on set like this, rare, but not unique. Brandon Lee was shot and killed on the set of The Crow in '93. A blank was fired, but dislodged part of a live round stuck in the barrel. In '84, on the set of the show Cover Up, actor John Eric Hexum jokingly put a prop gun to his head and pulled the trigger. The pressure and wadding from the blank killed him. Rust, starring and produced by Baldwin, hinges on the accidental killing of a rancher in 1880s Kansas. This morning, Baldwin tweeted, "There are no words to convey my shock and sadness. I'm fully cooperating with the police investigation to address how this tragedy occurred. My heart is broken for her husband, their son, and all who knew and loved Halyna."
The film's assistant director is the one who gave Baldwin the gun on set and shouted, "Cold gun," to indicate it was harmless. The director says the revolver fired while Baldwin was practicing drawing and pointing it at the camera during rehearsal. We're now hearing from a prop master who says he turned down a job opportunity on that very movie. He says he felt the production was, and I'm quoting here, completely unsafe. CNBC's Valerie Castro spoke to him tonight. Valerie, what are we learning? What were the red flags that he saw?
Well, Shep, Neil Zaromsky says he is haunted by what happened on set. After speaking with film managers in the weeks before the production was scheduled to start, he felt they were creating a cost-driven, dangerous situation. Zaromsky says there were several red flags in his initial discussions with the film team, but the final point that led him to turn down the position was the notion of combining the position of a prop assistant and the armorer. He says those are two independent jobs that carry huge responsibility, and combining them was a cost-cutting measure that he just wasn't okay with.
That was essentially the deal breaker for me, because they were compressing two positions, two major areas of focus. The armorer should never be combined with anybody. Their responsibilities should never be lessened. They should have a sole focus, and that is the preparation and the working of the weaponry on set for the day.
Zaromsky says his understanding is that the positions were combined even after he raised concerns. One of the actors who was on set several weeks before the incident spoke about the experience to TMZ. Ian Hudson says his character was shot and killed during one scene, and that even the firing of blank rounds made him uneasy.
I would talk to my fellow cast members afterwards, and we all agreed how intense that was and how scary and real it was.
He recalled hearing the director, Joel Souza, who was injured in last week's shooting, praising the armorer, Hannah Gutierrez, for her work on set.
In fact, I even overheard Joel Souza, the director, praise her a couple of times for being as safe as she was, and as consistent and speedy too, keeping up with the rushed schedule.
Now, this is believed to be one of the last pictures of Halyna Hutchins on set inside the room with church pews, described as the area where actor Alec Baldwin was rehearsing with the gun. It was posted to social media by a crew member who later told investigators he held Halyna in his arms in the moments after she was shot.
Tragedy on a film set rocking Hollywood tonight. Actor Alec Baldwin says his heart is broken after he killed a cinematographer and wounded a director with a prop gun while filming a Western in the deserts of New Mexico. An investigation now underway, and the district attorney says it's too early to tell if any charges will be filed against anyone. The Union for Prop Handlers says somehow there was a real bullet in Baldwin's prop gun when it was fired. Investigators have not confirmed that yet. The shooting killed the movie's head cinematographer, Halyna Hutchins. Director Joel Souza has since been released from the hospital. A local newspaper's photographer took these pictures of a distraught Baldwin after the shooting, in tears and on the phone outside the sheriff's office. The actor posted a statement on Twitter saying, quote, "There are no words to convey my shock and sadness regarding the tragic accident that took the life of Halyna Hutchins, a wife, mother, and deeply admired colleague of ours. I'm fully cooperating with the police investigation to address how this tragedy occurred." Here's CNBC's Rahel Solomon with more on the investigation.
This is one of the last images the world will ever see of cinematographer Halyna Hutchins, writing, "One of the perks of shooting a Western is you get to ride horses on your day off." She was in New Mexico filming Rust, a film set in the 1800s about a boy who goes on the run after an accidental killing. The video posted to her Instagram account just days before her tragic death. Hutchins, seen beside Baldwin in this photo on set, posted to her Instagram. Originally from Ukraine, she was considered a rising star in cinematography. The Santa Fe Sheriff's Office now investigating how this happened and what type of projectile was discharged. A rep for Baldwin says the shooting was an accident and was a misfire of a prop gun with blanks. But Hollywood weapons expert Larry Zanoff says a blank shouldn't have led to this.
The questions that I would always ask is, were the safety guidelines of our industry followed? Blanks are not designed to do what the final outcome of this was. We need to investigate and find out what went wrong.
Her death drawing comparisons to others who died after being accidentally shot during filming. Most famously, actor Brandon Lee in 1993 while filming The Crow. The sister of Lee tweeting today, Our hearts go out to the family of Halyna Hutchins and to Joel Souza and all involved in the incident on Rust. No one should ever be killed by a gun on a film set, period. Baldwin tweeting, "My heart is broken for her husband, their son, and all who knew and loved Halyna."
And there is new information tonight about what happened on set hours before the shooting. The LA Times reports that half a dozen camera workers had walked off to protest working conditions. One crew member telling the paper that Halyna Hutchins had been advocating, Kelly, on their behalf.
More of these reports are coming out this evening. Rahel, thank you so much.